Hey y'all, Scott here, and I've just been promoted at my job to the title of stay-at-home son. Suffice to say, I've had a lot of extra time on my hands, and I've been discovering the legends of lost video games. Someone please hire me.
Games are a medium in which preservation can be tricky, thus some games can't be played in their original state. These are games that have basically been lost, not games that were cancelled, but games that existed and were playable, but are inaccessible nowadays. These are the games that time forgot. NBA Elite 11, a crowning achievement in the cancelled but not cancelled industry. EA initially developed Elite 11 as a reboot of the NBA Live series. 2010 was a crazy pro Elite anti-live time. After a lame demo was put out for the game showcasing various problems and glitches, EA realized the product just wasn't up to snuff and thus cancelled the release of the game. Or did they? Copies of the game were shipped to retailers, but EA requested them to be sent back. Most obliged, but some copies were sold to consumers. Due to never officially releasing, but technically officially releasing, NBA Elite 11 is incredibly hard to play. If you want to grab the game, well, the demo that initially released was completely ripped from online stores, making this one of the hardest EA Sports games to experience. Thank God you made the cut. Hey, remember Download Play on the Nintendo DS? It was a way for you to temporarily download content from another DS without an internet connection, mainly for things like playing a multiplayer game without your own copy of the game. It's pretty slick. Download Play was also used to issue demos to players. The main way I remember this was through the Wii. You could boot up the Nintendo channel and download demos for DS games to your DS, but you could also get exclusive demos by using Download Play in specific areas, like retail stores. However, we have an exclusive game that was only available via DS Download Play. Visiting the Poke Park, a Pokemon theme park in Japan, you could download an exclusive DS game to your system, Poke Park Asari Takai DS. It's a Pokemon fishing game, that's it. The way DS Download Play works is that after your system is shut down, or after 12 hours, the game is inaccessible, and the fact that this game was only available in a theme park that's totally dead now, Pokemon's triumphant leap into the fishing genre just refuses to be played nowadays. Here's a plethora of games that were delivered via online services in the early 90s, back when the internet was delivered via railroads or whatever. Yes, various game systems in this era kinda sorta supported online, but in different ways compared to how online support is handled nowadays. The Satellaview and Sega Channel were online services for the Super Famicom and Sega Genesis respectively. The Satellaview was more of a satellite broadcast modem offering games to be played at specific times, almost like the games were a radio broadcast you had to tune into. In fact, the way the games were delivered was basically like a radio broadcast. The games offered on the service varied from add-ons to remakes to remixes of previous games to just full-on new games. But this method of games delivery came with a caveat. Most, if not all of these games would not officially be re-released in any physical way, and thus fans had to step up to ensure these games could be played for generations to come by backing up the files online. The only way to get these games legitimately nowadays is to grab a Satellaview with the cartridge and memory pack, hopefully with previously broadcasted game data on it. A good majority of the Satellaview broadcasted games can be played now via emulators, and unofficial reproduction cartridges exist of various games, but many are not in their original state. For example, an expansion to The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past was released, entitled Ancient Stone Tablets, and featured a narrator speaking to the player alongside orchestrated music being streamed. While Ancient Stone Tablets can be played on an emulator nowadays, it's never been officially re-released by Nintendo, and the narrator and orchestrated music is completely lost. Another one is Kirby's Toy Box, a collection of games broadcasted via this service. They were minigames, basically an expansion of Kirby Superstar. Most of the minigames have been found, backed up, and can be played online right now, except for one. The game entitled Ball Rally is still lost and can't be played unless you just so happen to have a Satellaview with the game on it, which is something that has yet to surface. Just a few years ago, a good chunk of the Kirby's Toy Box games that were believed to be lost did end up surfacing, so don't completely count this one out just yet. But get ready for the most heart-wrenching lost game broadcast of them all. Garfield Caught in the Act's Lost Levels. The Sega Channel for Sega Genesis was kind of Sega's version of the Satellaview, and similar to it, Sega offered some exclusive games on the service like Mega Man: The Wily Wars and Alien Soldier. Garfield Caught in the Act was offered to play, but also saw release as a physical cartridge. However, a handful of levels didn't make the cut in the final release and were finished for the Sega Channel version of the game. Many have nicknamed this as Garfield the Lost Levels, as they are completely lost. However, these levels are available on the Game Gear and PC versions of the game. It's not confirmed, but it's safe to assume that while these versions may be similar, they probably aren't one-to-one the same level designs as the levels on the Sega Channel version, which are gone and will most likely never resurface.
No.
The dependency many games have on online stores scares the piss out of me. So many games are digital only and can be taken off of the stores at any moment, making it almost impossible to play them. A good amount of the time, these games are taken off for licensing reasons. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World the game is a huge one that was taken off Xbox Live Arcade and the PlayStation Network. Being a retro-style beat-em-up based on the movie based on the graphic novels, this one has gained quite a following, so it's sad to see you can't play it anymore if you want to. Turtles in Time Reshelled was a reimagining of the arcade and SNES classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 Turtles in Time, and yikes, I don't think a ton of people dug this one, so who cares that it's gone? The Simpsons arcade game was removed from XBLA and PSN, and that was already a game people were having a hard time getting a hold of to play. It was a bit of a miracle to see the game re-released on these platforms at all, so at least it did happen even though it was short-lived. Nintendo specifically did this with the enhanced re-release of The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords on DSiWare to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the Zelda series. It was always positioned as a free, limited release, and it's been unavailable for years at this point. One of the most infamous delistings in recent memory, PT, a free playable teaser for the cancelled horror game Silent Hills. After the game's director Hideo Kojima and publisher Konami had a falling out, not only was Silent Hills cancelled, but PT was just absolutely eviscerated off the PlayStation Store. The only way you can play it today is if you still have it downloaded on your PlayStation 4, and even then, if you delete it, you can't even re-download it. This one's a bit of an odd bugger. You know the Mario and Sonic at the Olympic games, right? Everybody's favorites. Well, the winter variant on the Wii and DS received a mobile phone version called Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games, only featuring Sonic characters. It's been taken down, and we don't have a way to play it anymore. How unfortunate. I always wanted to play curling as Vector the Crocodile on my phone. Holy shit, I need to work on my life goals. Mario Roulette is an incredibly rare and obscure Japanese arcade game released by Konami. It's basically what it sounds like, a Mario Roulette featuring similar graphics to those found in the bonus stages from Super Mario World, but the only way you can play it today is if you find one. And spoilers, Jesus Christ, that's never going to happen. This is such an obscure rare release that not only is it nearly impossible to find, but even more difficult to back up online because, it's never happened. The online multiplayer component of many games have been shut down. Looking at the games using the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection on the Wii and DS, multiplayer's donezo on a lot of those titles, but massive multiplayer online games are completely toast. When those things are shut down, it's completely game over. Many games are kept alive via fan servers, but more times than not, MMOs that die forever. It isn't always apparent just how fragile media can be. The Film Foundation estimated that over 90% of films before 1929 have been lost forever, which is way past unfortunate. That's history right there that never got justifiably preserved. Of course, with film, books, music, and the sort, these forms of media can be displayed and preserved in a multitude of ways now. Video games are a different story. Games are dependent on the hardware in which they were designed for. Movies, music, and books don't have that problem. They're all generally in formats that can be displayed on any computer, or any DVD or CD, or just pieces of paper. Games are trickier. The fact that they're designed for specific hardware in mind makes it more difficult to preserve. Many point to emulation, which of course emulates a specific video game console on different hardware, and yes, that's an excellent way to preserve games, especially and in my opinion, preferably when it's officially endorsed by the companies who originally made the game. Recent releases like the Mega Man Legacy collections are emulations of some classics, which many purists may scoff at, but in my opinion, if they play and look as they should, I commend re-releases like this, as it ensures that these games are readily available to play and won't be lost to history. But of course, not everything can be preserved, and we just have to live with that. I would love to get my hands on a lot of these games someday, but I'm not giving my hopes up. Honestly, the fact that some of these games are lost to history makes them more interesting in some cases, and potentially gives them more notoriety than if they were readily available. But it still would be nice to have hard copies of all these games. Of course, when talking about games that are lost and can't be played anymore, everybody has to mention Club Penguin, an online game where you just bro out with other people all displayed as penguins. You see, I never played Club Penguin, I was always more of a Nicktropolis guy, which suffered the same fate. Well, with these online chat room kids games gone forever, I guess I'm gonna have to relive what it's like to be a kid in one of these things by just going to a chat room and posing as a 12-year-old. Gotta ask this person how old they are these days first off, and with the age-old age question being thrown out there, I think I'm gonna leave it at young. 18? Get out of here. Think young, go younger. Don't worry guys, we're in an online chat room. These people are wholesome with a capital H. Scratch that.